Hello, welcome again to Zentangle Explore. I am Esther Piszczek, a certified Zentangle teacher, and I am so excited that you are here to draw with me today. This is a class where we explore one Zentangle pattern really, really slowly. And so the point is to draw lines really slowly. And if you have a pen and you can draw a line, then you are already a success at this class. So you can have any pen you want. I have a little Sharpie felt tip pen here. I have a 01 Micron, but if you wanted to use your ballpoint or a colored pencil, like you really could use anything that you want, anything that you can draw with, you can use, and little tiny pieces of paper. So something that can fit in the palm of your hand. This is watercolor paper because sometimes I like to add watercolor, or you could add markers or color. It doesn't have to be a square. It can be any shape. It can be a little bit bigger. Whatever works for you will be grand. And even if you have a piece of copy paper, totally fine. We have little pieces of paper, so we have little spaces to fill. And then if you want to start another little tiny little piece of paper during class or after class or next week or next month, you can. Okay, so we're going to start with a little brief meditation, and then I'll switch my camera and we can draw. So get nice and comfortable in your seat. You can close your eyes if you like. I'm going to close mine. And just settle into your breath. Just notice your breath. Say hello, breath. Welcome to this day, to this moment, to this evening, wherever you are, watching this on the replay or here with me in person. Hello, breath. Just notice what your breath is doing. No need to change it. Just say, what is it doing? What are the elements of my breath? What makes up my breath? We're breathing 24/7 hours a day, 24/7, whether we're sleeping or awake or daydreaming or crying or laughing. We're always, always breathing. We don't always notice what breathing looks like or feels like. And just like the elements of a Zentangle pattern or a line pattern, our breath has its different parts. It can be really helpful to get to know those parts. There's an inhale, perhaps an expansion in the chest or the belly, perhaps some coolness at the edge of your nostrils. An itty, itty bitty little stop, so itty bitty that you may never have noticed before at the top of the inhale. It's where the inhale makes a U-turn. And then there's the exhale. Perhaps contraction, slight contraction of your lungs or your belly. Perhaps your shoulders shift. Perhaps your ribs move. Perhaps your clothing shifts on your skin with the exhale. And there's another itty bitty little rest at the bottom before the breath turns around and inhales again. Each of those little parts can change and shift with your awareness. And even without your awareness, it's so much nicer when we bring awareness to the breath. Say, is my breathing shallow? Is my breathing deep? Is my breathing somewhere in the middle? Is my breathing ragged? Is my breathing heavy? Is my breathing slow? Is my breathing quick? Just notice the quality, not as bad or good, just to notice all of the different ways that the breath can express in your body, in your awareness. When you're ready, let's take a big inhale together. And a nice sighing exhale. And a nice big inhale, perhaps breathing into your chest and your belly. And a nice long releasing exhale. One more nice big inhale. And a releasing exhale. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and know that whatever we create together will be perfect just as it is. Okay, we're going to take that lovely breath and we are going to draw. So I'm going to change my camera. All right, I have a few pieces of paper here of different sizes and a pen, and we are going to draw. So this pattern is called Kulkane, Kulakane by Tabitha Bedoukian, who's a CZT. And it is a very, sometimes we draw really organic patterns, but this is a very angular pattern. So we're going to draw a slow line right from the edge of our paper. And then a parallel line to the edge, and then another vertical line. And what I want you to notice about this is that I'm drawing from this side of the paper. We're going to start another one. We're going to connect it to this first one. And these can go on the other side, and they can be different sizes. And so we play with the elements of a Zentangle pattern. And the elements of this are 3 lines. So I'm playing around now with how these connect. Just notice how these build and move. The idea is that we always connect them to the top. And they can be different sizes and shapes. Now I'm drawing from the bottom, but I could easily be drawing this from the top. So if I start again, just to show you, let's start here at the top. It's almost as if we're drawing these little tabs. And the little tabs connect and they fill space. And as we do in this class, we ask, what are the elements and how can I change them? And so you can make your lines. Do they need to be straight? These are pretty similar width lines. Perhaps there can be some weighting or some rounding in these corners where we just add a little black and fill in these little corners. Perhaps there are shapes within shapes. I mean, what happens if you draw over those lines? You get two different shapes here. Maybe one is colored in black. Maybe some of these little tabs are wider or skinnier. So it's just a matter of building. And here my line did a little dip. And so maybe the tops of these shapes aren't all flat straight across. Maybe they have a little character. Maybe the lines start to wiggle. Maybe there's some expression in the top of this shape. So this is a pattern that seems very static and the same. But know that with your imagination and your pen and your really slow lines, you can add your own twist and stylistic expression every single one of these lines. I mean, what happens if you just allow your pen to make new shapes, have an opinion of it by itself on its own? Maybe these lines aren't parallel. Maybe they wiggle and wonkle around. And maybe when you started, you thought, well, I really like this quiet, contemplative drawing of one line connecting to another in these nice little rectangular shapes. And it's very pleasing to me to just do that. And you can do that. Of course, I'm starting these lines off the edge of the page, but they really are just the edges of rectangles. So you could very well be starting them in the middle of the page with all four sides and then build off of them from the middle. You may find that you feel more comfortable drawing either from the bottom or from the top. You can always turn your tile. And I turn my tile and I find that I have these lines here. And so what if I use that line as my beginning point to build this pattern? So what I love about teaching this class is that there's this loose guideline of the pattern and what it does. What are the elements of the pattern? What are the lines that make it up? Then there's what you bring to the pattern, your ideas about how you feel today, what your hand is doing. Maybe your lines are a little shaky. Maybe you've got a little wiggle in your line. That's going to change what it looks like, and how it changes is the beauty of the actual process, the exploratory process, and allowing that to be exactly as it is. This pattern doesn't have to look a certain way. The goal in this class is to breathe and to draw slow lines. That's it. Breathing and drawing slow lines. I'm going to take mine out into the middle of the page and see what that looks like, using the exact same formula. connecting to the top, although I'm drawing sideways now. And bringing it down and connecting somewhere else on that shape. So you can see that even though this pattern seems to be very, very specific, there's an infinite number of ways that you can change it and make it your own and play with it and stretch it. And say, I have this concept of a line connecting to another line with this uneven tab-like pattern. What happens if I just allow it to change and shift with my imagination? And really give yourself permission to allow any option that comes into your mind to be an acceptable thing to experiment with. I'm start out with a blank page. And this blank page is a canvas. It represents spaciousness. And what comes onto the page is really completely and totally up to you. And when we allow the lines to just take shape with our breath and a gentle awareness on slowing down, we can become delighted and amazed by what we create. And so it's so much more helpful to come into a creative process with the idea that you want to create, as opposed to the idea that you want to create X, Y, or Z. Say, I want to draw a dog, and the dog that you draw on the page is not, although it doesn't look like the dog that you have in your mind, then that invites in judgment and frustration and a sense perhaps of failure or judgment about your drawing skills or recrimination about the fact that you skipped art in high school. Or perhaps your art teacher told you that you weren't very good at art in high school. That happens a lot. It happened to me. But all of those things are just things that we believe about ourselves that aren't actually true. What's important about creating is whether or not you enjoy the process of creating. It's not what you're creating. So when we draw in this really simple way, we give ourselves permission, and it's up to you whether or not you're giving yourself permission or if you're judging what comes on the page. We give ourselves permission to explore for the sake of exploring, not because we need to win a contest or impress our parents or be the best person in this class. Because in reality, every single person in this class is drawing and exploring something different. And so it would be absolutely fruitless to even try to determine which is better than another. Yes, somebody might have more experience with a pen and their lines might be a little straighter or connect in a certain way, but it doesn't make it better. It just simply makes it different. When people come live to this class, we compare what we don't compare, but we share what we've drawn. And then I put it together in a class mosaic so that everybody can see what everybody else's ideas and explorations look like. And then they can say, oh, wow, I really love what this person did with that really fun idea. I'm going to get out my pen and my piece of paper, and I'm going to use that as a springboard for exploring further. Because it's not something that I would have thought of on my own. But now that I see it's possible, and I want to try it out. And it's helpful to take an attitude of whatever it is that I'm experiencing, whether it's on the page or in my life, that experience is valuable to me. It's helping me to shift my perspective about myself or the world or somebody else in my world, and to see things differently. And seeing things differently is always valuable. And so what I love about this piece is that I've drawn all of these little shapes, and now I'm adding a little bit of rounding color in the corners. And it's just so calming to me. Perhaps not to you, but it's very calming to me. You can see that just doing this, like adopting this as a simple moving meditation or grounding exercise, would be very helpful because the ultimate goal is just to make marks on the page, not to judge them, not to be perfect at them, to simply allow my pen to move on the page and watch what happens, to witness what changes, to allow whatever it is that's happening to just happen. And perhaps to bring some gentle awareness to your pen and how you're holding your pen, if you have a death grip on it or if you're allowing it to just relax in your hand. I often need to bring awareness and relax my hand, not press so hard with the nib of my pen, to continue to bring myself back to an awareness of my breath. Say, oh, I'm drawing lines and I'm breathing. And I can do both of those things at the same time. With obviously, you won't stop breathing no matter what you're doing, but you can do both of those things with your awareness intact. Say, I'm drawing lines, I'm holding my pen, and I'm breathing. And when what it is that we're doing is so simple on the page, because this is the opportunity to tune into the breath while we're doing something, which is a very, very, very valuable practice. You can start a new page whenever you'd like. These don't need to be rectangles. They could be circles or squares or triangles or octagons, really any shape that you desire. Just drawing lines and connecting them. So simply. And connecting them in whatever way you want to connect them. Aura is a lovely pattern enhancer. And so what if once you got all your lines in, you added little auras? It's a lovely way to change the look of a pattern without actually changing the pattern itself. So the base of the pattern is the same. And yet when you add all these little interior little kind of liner lines, totally changes the look of what you put down on the page in the first place. And everything can have an aura line. The outside, the inside. Key is to breathe and draw slow lines. Noticing what's different is always very helpful. So I think a lot of times in our lives we go through life saying, well, that's the same, that's the same, that's the same. And in reality, we are changing all the time, even especially over the years, but day to day and moment to moment, even. Our emotions are shifting, our understanding of our world is changing. And I think a lot of times, I know for me, I don't always give myself credit for all that I've learned and am learning all the time. learning how to navigate my environment, learning how to do new things. Understanding new ideas or concepts, or understanding something new about a relationship that I'm in, either with myself or another, or perhaps with my business or my cat. We're in relationship all the time. And all kinds of things that we don't actually think of as relationships when we're so focused on, well, a romantic relationship is a relationship, or a relationship with your siblings, or we're also in relationship to our money, our clothing, our jewelry, our toothbrush. You're literally in relationship with absolutely everything we touch or see or sense. And the question becomes, are you enjoying that relationship? Or is there something that you want to change about it to make it more pleasing? And then giving yourself permission to make a new choice. Knowing that whatever choice you're making is absolutely the perfect choice for you, even if it wouldn't be the perfect choice for your mother or your father or your sister or your cousin or your best friend or your partner. Because your experience is the experience that you are having, and you're not having anybody else's experience while you're breathing and drawing and walking and cooking and working and playing games. It's your perspective that matters most to you. It's always good to appreciate somebody else's perspective, because that's how we learn more about our own perspective and what we like and what we don't like. I think sometimes as humans, we value other people's perspective and other people's experience more than our own. And think, well, if they're having a different experience, then the experience I'm having must be wrong, or how I'm thinking about it must be somehow flawed. In reality, our experiences and our perceptions are simply different. And that is a beautiful thing. There's an infinite number of ways to connect these lines. This would be an excellent pattern for adding color if you wanted to play with color. Color can look like ink or marker or color crayons or colored pencils or watercolor, highlighter, chalk, pastels, paint, acrylic paint, watercolor paint, finger paint. You could take this on a huge sheet of paper, put it on your floor, Draw with a big fat Sharpie marker. And then finger paint it. Wouldn't that be delightful? Or you can simply breathe and watch your pen make lines on the page, coloring in spaces that are wanting to be a little darker, knowing that every line you put on the page gives you more information. And gathering information is the best way to make decisions and to discern what you like and what you don't like. And from that place, it's easier to make decisions. Sometimes we can sit in indecision and say, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And be so fearful of doing anything that we even fail to, or choose not to, or don't know that we can seek more information so that we know more before making a decision. The best place to get information is from your own body, from your breath, from your awareness. Because we know more about us and how we like to navigate our world and what we like and we don't like than anybody else knows. So our therapist or our doctor or the postman or your best friend can tell you X, Y, or Z, but they don't know everything about you. Only you know everything about you. And so you are the best person to know what is best for you. I have to remind myself of that often. I'm a very good little rule follower, which is why I love teaching this class, because it allows me to break the rules, to stretch them, to say, really, are there any rules? Is there really anything that I cannot do if I have a pen on the page? And I think the answer is no, there's nothing that I cannot do. I can do whatever I want. And that is so freeing and so empowering. This pattern's lovely also because all we're doing really is creating spaces, shapes on the page. And so if we feel like filling in those spaces with pattern or other shapes, or solid color, or black, or pencil shading, we can do that. And it's an exploration class, so nothing is stopping us from exploring in whatever way we want to explore. It's just a matter of giving yourself permission to say, I want to do this, or what would it look like if I do that? And say, oh, I can do that. No one is stopping me. There is no Zentangle police. Esther says, do it. Explore, experiment, learn something new. It's also a really lovely process for saying, well, I think that this pattern is one way. But now that I'm allowing myself to explore, I'm recognizing that it can be so much more than its simple elements. I also think that's also true about all of life and especially about people or even animals. You get a fearful animal that's been abused, and you think, oh, well, this animal is mean because they act in a certain way, when really they're probably just scared. With a little love and attention, those fears can be alleviated and trust can be built, and the behavior changes. So I believe no matter how someone, an animal, or a person is acting, they're really just doing the best that they can with the information that they have. Which is what all of us are doing. So we can stop and remember that. It adds a little wiggle room in our thoughts and our ideas. When we're discovering something new about that person or that animal that we wouldn't have discovered if we'd continued to sit in judgment about how they're behaving. And the same thing goes for our lines on the page. Whatever our pen decides to draw, maybe without our seeming permission, and something shows up and you think, oh, well, I didn't want to draw that. My pen just went off like crazy town. But if you breathe, come back to it with some gentle awareness, you might say, wow, that isn't something I would have ever thought to draw on. Now I have this cool new thing that I get to play with. Because I decide to stop and breathe and make a new choice. And open my mind to something new. And I would expect that your tile and your creation looks absolutely nothing like mine. Because we are two different people with two different hands and experiences and ideas and pens and paper, different spaces. And so even though we're drawing the idea of the same thing, it's going to express through us very differently. And that is so amazing. And so I celebrate whatever it is that is showing up for you on your page. I think it would be lovely if you celebrate as well. Okay, these are my explorations. Of course, this can go any which way you want it to look at it, as Zentangles, there's no right side up or upside down. So you can change it however you like. Super fun. This would be so fun with color. And I might do that. Hi, welcome back. Thank you so much for drawing with me. I am so excited that you spent some time drawing really slow lines. And I was taking a moment to catch up. There we are. You can keep drawing this pattern or whatever it turns into for the rest of the week or even for the rest of the month, and try new supplies and try different pieces of paper and different thicknesses of lines and add color and do all sorts of fun things. So you can also find more videos of drawing like this on my YouTube channel under Piszczek, and my classes at eternalpossibility.com. And if you'd like to donate to these classes, you can do so at paypal.me/eternalpossibility.com. Thank you so much for drawing with me, and I hope you continue to create in wild and exploratory ways.